Wait a minute.
No.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. It's Juli Pitra, and it is time for Pitranomics Thursday Talk. And I'm excited about tonight's topic because we are going to discuss one of the strategies. We're going to revisit one of the strategies and talk about it as it pertains to marriage. So, a little bit about me. I have actually been married 27 years to a wonderful man named Juli Pitra. I'm originally from Colorado Springs, Colorado, and Andre is originally from the Czech Republic. We met in grad school, got married, came together. That's a whole nother story, but I'm really happy about our journey. I want to take special care to say I am not trying to say we have a perfect marriage. I don't know what that is. And forgive this weird light, daylight savings time has shifted my light. So we don't have a perfect marriage. It's not a fairy tale marriage, but it's lasting and it's working and it's growing and it's changing. And that is what I think is the most important, that the marriage is lasting for us, no matter how the changes happen. So first, I want to make sure everybody can see the presentation. Thank you again to my wonderful admins, Shamir and Hannah, for helping me keep these things on track. So anyway, let's get into it. The strategy is who is in your lifeboat, and we are going to discuss marriage the Pitranomics way. So the strategy that this is going to focus on, and here is a recap of the 10 strategies, it's who is in my lifeboat. And the complete title of that is who is in my lifeboat, and are they helping me to paddle or are they causing me to sink? And we've discussed this before, but for those who haven't heard about this, what is the lifeboat? The lifeboat is your intimate inner circle. It's your support system and your guides and your cheerleaders. They're the people that help you keep paddling. They're the ones who champion with you your end of life goals, or EOLs as I call them. And a spouse or life partner should absolutely be in your lifeboat. Another caveat to this conversation, there's marriage, there's committed partners, there's long-term partners, there's life partners, whatever you call yourself. If your goal is to last and last for the rest of your life, then this helps you. This is for you. I am not trying to put a label on it. I'm not getting into that. People who are committed to each other, these are the values that I'd like you to check out, that I would like to present. And as far as why the lifeboat is needed, the journey to accomplishing your end of life goals is often fraught with difficulty. Life is hard. Life is very, very difficult, and you want someone in your corner. And your inner circle helps keep you focused and keeps you swimming. And I had tried to include a clip from the movie, what is it, Finding Nemo, where Dory and Nemo and a bunch of fish get caught up in this fisherman's net, which is perilous. But Dory's mantra of just keep swimming, they could overcome that peril together. And that is what, to me, that is a perfect metaphor for the lifeboat. People who are in it with you so you can overcome together. And you know what? Only fellow paddlers are permitted to be in your lifeboat. Those that are causing you to sink need to be kicked out. And that is why discernment is key. I'm not talking about judging, but sometimes the people who don't need to be there, you have to have the discipline to move them on out of your lifeboat. And as my mother used to say, love them with a long-handled spoon. So I have to ask you guys, and you know what? Put it in the chat. Is this marriage? Is this what marriage is? Is it the honeymoon or the reception or the bling bling or the ceremony or the dress? Is that what marriage is? Because I'll tell you, when you do a Google search of marriage, this is what I hope hopefully you can see this. When you do a Google search of marriage, you see dresses, you see ceremony, you see expenditure of money. It is really hard to visualize what the grind of marriage is all about. So we're going to get back to that. Let's see. Now that's a wedding and maybe a reception and a honeymoon. This one day, or maybe the one day plus a week or 2 weeks of your honeymoon, that's not marriage. That's just that's the opening games. But the real grind, the real joy, the real fruit of a marriage comes later. Whoops, hold on. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. So marriage, the Pitranomics way, has congruent values. You two need to be going in the same direction, or at least directions that complement each other in life. And you need to communicate effectively with each other. You need to mutually respect each other. Respect can't be one way in a Pitranomics marriage. And for me, a marriage is either successful or unsuccessful. I have been asked several times, are you happily married? And my answer is, I am successfully married. As of right now, and where's some wood? Knock on wood, we are successfully married. And sorry, this light is just killing me. You have to have trust that keeps growing and keeps growing over time. You have to be able to be intimately emotional or emotionally intimate with your partner. And you have to provide stability for your family. A bunch of chaos does not work well for the successful marriage, for the Pitranomics marriage. And distance, it can survive it for a while, but you got to get back to each other and you have to trust each other. That's what a successful marriage is all about. And that's all according to Pitranomics and Juli Pitra. So what are the congruent values that I think are important in the Pitranomics marriage? That's you need to be on point with your finances and wealth. And I've told this story before. Years and years and years ago, my husband and I met a couple. Both of my kids were in diapers then. And they were grandparents and they were taking their children to the park, playing with their kids the same way we were playing with our kids. And, I started talking to them and I was like, hey, what is the secret to a long-lasting marriage? And, oh gosh, this light is killing me. So sorry. The man told me, take care of your finances, communicate well, and respect each other. And I thought, okay. He also started us off on our journey to take care of our finances and our wealth, because stress about money brings stress into the marriage. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a Rockefeller to have a great marriage. Ooh, this is getting worse. But I am saying there's a certain level of stress beyond which is not healthy for the two of you to maintain. You also have to have congruent values about child rearing. Let me see if I can back up here. I don't know if that's helping, but I can barely see the screen with this light. So if you bring children into a union, how you raise those children needs to be something where you're of one accord. Because if you're not, first of all, you're not going to be successful with your children, and it's going to be a source of strife between the two of you. The other thing is a division of labor. Now, I told you before, my husband and I met in grad school, but when we decided to have children, somebody had to take care of the children. that somebody was me. I was at home and I was taking care of the kids. And, the stay-at-home mom lifestyle does not fit me well. But both of us knew that somebody needed to be home, somebody needed to be vested in them. We didn't have extended family near us, and so that somebody was me. Division of labor has to be mutually agreed upon. Now, I am not going to even stand here and say that I was so happily the domestic housewife. That's not the case. But I will say that we came together enough to raise kids that have a good enough start in life. Was life perfect? No, it was not. It's not about perfection. It's about staying together long enough to create something beautiful in the end. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is spiritual alignment. I didn't say religion. I said spiritual alignment. There has to be some kind of similarity, compatibility with your spiritual beliefs, because if you're at odds at each other, that's a fault line that is very detrimental to marriage or a union. So a Pitranomics marriage also has effective communication. You have to have active engagement. I'm sure everyone has seen that couple where there's somebody talking. It might be one spouse, blah, 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 and you can tell the other one's checked out. That's not active engagement. You need to be able to both come together in your communication, each listening to each other, each taking the time to share what they're feeling. And you need to be able to count on an empathetic response. I am so sorry about this light. I will have this fixed next week. So it is not possible to always know exactly what that person is feeling, the other person, to be able to know what's in their mind. So you have to train yourself to have empathy for your partner, to be able to provide feedback in a constructive way. Because what I want to tell you, there's honesty. You need to be honest in a marriage, but you can't have that honesty packaged as damaging silos on the other side. That honesty has to come from a loving point, and you need to take judgment out of your marriage and be able to accept your partner so that you can count on that acceptance as well. I don't know any perfect person. I'm pretty close, just teasing, but you have to be able to accept your flaws, your greatness, all of it. Policy, no judgment, grow together. A Pitranomics marriage has to have that mutual respect, which consists of civility. And growing up, I had a lot of married couples around me, my parents' friends, neighbors and such. And there wasn't really a whole lot of civility that I saw. And by that, I mean, be polite to your partner. Be polite to them in front of people. I can't speak to what went on behind closed doors, but you certainly shouldn't bring that acrimony out into the public, because you are basically bearing open a fault line for somebody else to step in. So you need to learn how to do the active listening. You need to be totally committed to win-win conflict resolution. I'm not saying you're always successful at win-win conflict resolution, because people are people, but that should be the goal. So if you have a brief period of irritation and things aren't working, get back to the win-win conflict resolution goal in your life. And you have to have an appreciation of your differences. So take my husband and me, for example. Maybe at first pass, we don't look like we go together. We are very different people. But you know what? We fit together well. And I honestly believe there is no other man I could be married to. And I'd like to think there's no other woman that he could be married to, maybe a more tractable personality. But my feistiness and my crazy, I think, adds enough spice to him. And his deliberateness and his calmness adds that layer of necessary reasonability to me. And I appreciate that in him. Although I may fight against some of the characteristics that he has that I feel like, oh, they constrain me. Deep, deep down, I know that the two of us together are like a rock against the world, and that is a blessing. And keep in mind, as you go through life, You're not the same person you are when you met. You grow. And so that mutual respect has to respect the growth and the individual autonomy of the people while keeping the sanctimony of the union paramount. So I hope that's clear. A marriage also has to have growing trust. When you first get married, you really don't know that person for the most part. Maybe if you've been childhood friends and high school friends and then you got married. Marriage intimacy is different than friendship intimacy. And it's 24/7. So that's one thing, right? You have to get used to that. The person that you marry has to have a level of integrity that's acceptable to you. And so when I remember back when I was in college and a number of women were looking for spouses, and their criteria were, to me, capricious. You know, how he looked, how much money they thought he was going to have. Not saying that money isn't important. No, 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 I'm not saying that. But how much he had at the moment to spend on them, I didn't think was. Whether or not he was, whether or not particular fraternity, it's now, those aren't first that interested me, and I don't know why they weren't. Not saying I wasn't, you know, my eyes didn't look at a good looking guy or didn't go to step shows to see the cute step. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying when it came time to consider a partner, I had different criteria. And I looked for consistency in a person. I'm pretty sure all of us have dated someone that you just couldn't get a handle on where they were coming from. They weren't genuine and consistent with you. They didn't seem like they really cared. They didn't seem like they were coming from a place of honesty. You always felt somehow taken advantage of. I don't like that. And you didn't really feel like they were your friend. So with my marriage, in good times and in bad, I feel like we have that loving honesty. Now, does that loving honesty always feel good? Probably not, but it's there. And he is my friend. He has my back. I am his friend. I have his back. Doesn't mean everything's perfect. I want to keep highlighting that when you look for the fairy tale, you overlook the true gems. Back to the acceptance. I can't stress that enough. And you always have to be committed to your partnership, because my belief is an action verb. You have to choose to love. You have to work to love. You have to keep that love going. It is not, oh my gosh, I fell in love, like it had nothing to do with you or your will. I don't believe that. I believe that you go into it intending to love. You work every day on the love. You look for reasons to love. That's what a Pitranomics marriage has. And the Pitranomics marriage has emotional intimacy. Now, let's be frank about something. During a long-term marriage, sometimes the vulnerability that's there can feel a little dangerous. You might feel like, I'm in a position of less power. It's going to happen. I'm not saying stay the course if you feel like you're in danger. That's not what I'm saying. But in a healthy marriage, allow yourself to become vulnerable. Allow yourself to show your partner that you care and that they're important. Because if you don't want to do that or feel that you can't do that, my opinion is you're not in a successful union. And there needs to be an equitable love exchange. And by that, I mean, if you go to that book, The 5 Love Languages, you have to be able to show your partner love in the way that they register love so that they can give you love in the way that you register love. So if your partner is a deeds of service and you are a quality time, let's make it a little different. Deeds of service and words of affirmation. Well, you may need to do a few services for your partner to let them feel love and encourage them to give you those words of affirmation that make you glow, and then make that an infinitely increasingly strengthening loop between the two of you. And I believe in emotional loyalty. Now, it is likely that at times, sometimes your marriage won't be as strong as it's supposed to be. You're going to have points of vulnerability. but you need to be emotionally loyal to your spouse. No matter what happens, no matter how you feel about them, you have to trust them, believe in them, exalt your spouse. Don't go out talking bad to your spouse on the airwaves of the public. And I'm not saying you can't write to your friend, to a trusted source, but your spouse is the person with whom you chose to do life with and to accomplish your goals with. So that should be the person that you are naturally able to lift up. Lift up your spouse, especially in public, and don't let anybody come in to the vulnerabilities between the two of you. Protect those. And a Pitranomics marriage has stability. So take care of your mental health. If you feel like you're not as strong as you are mentally, you have to take care of that so that you can be that strong, dependable partner. Your partner can't take care of your mental health for you. You have to manage that on your own so that you can then grow together with them. And your finances and wealth, you should work towards stability. There will be instability in any kind of life, but don't seek the instability and chaos to put into your life. Seek the stability in your finances. Seek the stability in your traditions. And I don't mean it's date night, but date night is a tradition. Whatever it is that you as a couple do to help strengthen the bond, do that often and stay committed to it. And establish boundaries around your union. Don't let other people disrespect your spouse. Don't let other people seep into your union. When it happens, if you ever find yourself vulnerable to another person, try to get them out. Again, I don't know of the perfect marriage, but you work toward the things that make it successful, and then long term you'll be successful. My belief about anything, nothing is easy, nothing is perfect, but keep working toward the ideal, and that puts the greatest level of success in your path. So from the Forbes magazine, these are some of the leading causes of divorce according to Forbes. So there's a lack of commitment, infidelity or extramarital affairs, too much conflict and arguing, getting married too young. That's something I'll touch on again later. Financial problems, substance abuse, domestic violence, lack of supportive family, health problems, religious differences, or little to no premarital education. So let's talk about that little to no premarital education. I believe that my generation is at that point where the traditional expectations about marriage were being tossed aside, but the new unquote contract wasn't clear. And so everybody was trying to negotiate how their marriage is going to go. I believe in therapy. I see a therapist often, and I've been doing that for a number of years because I knew I didn't want what I had seen from the previous generation. That wasn't the type of marriage that I wanted. But knowing what you don't want isn't really knowing what you do want. So you need some help in trying to figure out what it is I do want and how I'm going to make that happen. Now, a lot of these other leading causes have been touched on in the earlier discussion we've had as to how to make your marriage strong. So too much conflict and arguing. I believe you can have conflict and arguing. You just have to have conflict resolution with the win-win in mind. Financial problems, absolutely. It is very difficult to stay focused on each other when you're focused on, are we going to have a house or are we going to have food? It's very difficult. Domestic violence, absolutely not. I don't believe in subjugating yourself to being abused. Now, that's not taking into account those people that like that BDSM type of lifestyle. That's a different thing. That's adding the spice to your marriage. I'm saying someone where you're taking advantage of someone's vulnerability and abusing them. I don't support it. Health problems. I've read some things. I've read some articles that basically say if women get some kind of terminal illness, they end up going through that alone because their partner abandons them. but men tend to be able to enjoy a woman taking care of them. So those are statistics. What I'm talking about is, what are you doing in yours? What is the contract with your union? What is the progress showing you that's going to happen? Be aware, pay attention. Getting married too young. I was 32 when I got married. For me, any younger would have been too young. But that my husband was 25 when we got married. And he was and still is the more mature of the two of us. So it's not just an age, it's, are you prepared to make that shift in your life from me to we? And if you aren't, it's too early. So that's pretty much how I feel about that. Now, your lifeboat for the under 30 set. I think people are looking for compatibility. They're thinking about children, they're thinking about their career ambitions, they're wanting to have amazing life experiences. They want life to be, I don't know, a great Instagram story. I'm not making fun of the under 30, but it just seems like that seems to be what they're about. That is not a problem. It is entirely possible to meet someone in your under 30 age group and these be compatible goals, congruent goals, and that's great. You know what's even more magical is when you shift into the next set. And so you have child guiding. Maybe your children are older and you're not so much, I have to be on top of them, but you become more guides and you see the little humans coming up. You're focused on wealth preservation and maybe you glimpse your retirement and you want to plan for that. And it's entirely likely that in this age group, sometimes your lifeboat roster changes. Now, what I'm struggling and trying to support is lifelong commitment. But if it flat out doesn't work, if it just isn't meant to be, if there's no way for you to make it through life with this person, sometimes you got to change the roster in your lifeboat. Do that with intention and make sure if you bring another spouse into your lifeboat, you go through the preparation of making sure that they are the right person. Discern whether or not they are the right person, because you don't want to do that multiple times. And you know what? If you are the person that's done it multiple times, then I hope that's what you want. That's not what I'm talking about. And then 50 plus set. So I am in the 50 plus set. You know, it's not like I'm ready to die. I'm certainly not, but I know that I probably have more years behind me than in front of me. So I start thinking about, what is it I want to get accomplished from now until, you know, that final breath. And doing that as a couple is exciting. What is our big hurrah that's coming up next? Not the last one. We're not in our dotage, but what's the next one? And then we start making plans for the wealth that we've grown. What's going to be transferred to the next generation, to our kids? These are the things that bring us together. We are planning to enjoy retirement together. What is that going to look like? Are we going to keep working? Are we just going to travel? Are we going to pick up pickleball, whatever that's called? Who knows? I don't know. And then we start considering illnesses and bodies maybe not being as strong. And so we put into place quality of life plans. Or if you're not putting them into place, you're talking about them and you're considering what's going to happen in that next step. And that growth brings you together. It doesn't have to be the death knell of a relationship, but these are the types of things that keep you going in this phase. So wouldn't it be great if you meet that perfect person in your 20s and you're in alignment with your child rearing and your career ambitions, and then you glide gracefully into your 30s to 50s, you're raising these beautiful children. They no longer require 24/7 care. They're growing up beautifully and embracing all the values that you want. And then you get to think about all of that, and you grow into the final phase and you think about your wealth transfer and everything just sounds beautiful. But in actuality, it's bumpy and it's chaotic. So this is what you're aiming for, I hope. This is what I'm talking about aiming for. And if you're getting behind the Pitranomics model, then I hope you embrace this. But it's not always going to be perfect. And it's not always going to be lifelong. And sometimes you have to consider that you have to choose another partner to take you into the next phase. And that's okay. That is all good. But what I will say is when you're choosing who's going to be in your lifeboat, they need to be your supporter. They need to support your goals, and they need to be competent in the way that you need them. Because incompetence in the lifeboat can be as damaging as malevolence. Don't think that, oh, it's the thought that counts. Not for the lifeboat. The ability counts, the integrity counts, the commitment counts. Because someone who's not all those things can be just as dangerous as the one that's too close and does not hold you in the best of esteem. So thank you for that presentation. It's time for now questions or feedback. I hope that this has been something that generates some interaction. So everybody there, hey, talk to me, tell me what you think. And hopefully you can hear me. I can't see everybody. Let me make that change there. Don't know why I can't. I'm spotlit. All right, so who there want to bring something to the, put my glasses on, see, here they are. Anyone have any questions for me or wants to share something? Shamir said, especially the married folk. You know, the non-married folk can hop in here too. You know, maybe ask questions of the married folk, because here's a safe forum, even though it's being live streamed.
Well,
But
I will say that as a non-married single person who's never been married, this is very helpful. So that way it potentially helps limit mistakes of that I have to pay for later. So I appreciate this. Yeah, I would love to
you're
hear from
welcome.
more people who either are or have been married, and if this resonates with them in any way.
Okay. I'm actually going to respectfully ask that my friend David speak on this a little bit because it is something we talk about together. So your thoughts on this presentation, and do you have ideas to share?
I love the presentation. I think it brings to light a lot of issues that most people do not consider when they when they are looking to find somebody to get married to. Those are conversations that should be had and often are not. So just bringing it and talking about it, bringing it to the table and talking about it, I think is a wonderful thing. I hope most people, at least the people listening, take that part to heart and have that conversation. Um, just like any conversation you have with anybody who you're bringing into your lifeboat, you need to sit down and have conversations with. You want to make sure that they have your best interests at heart. And even if that means some tough love at times, some honesty when you don't want it, all those different things are very important in all of our relationships. It just depends upon how close they are. Those are my thoughts.
Exactly. No, thank you. Thank you. And here's one thing I'd like to ask you, David. You've, out of the people that I think are hearing me now, knew me before I got married.
Yes.
Knew me when I was the sweet and demure 20 something, right?
Yeah, that's it.
But do you think that there have been changes in me, hopefully growth, um, as a result of the life I have formed with my husband and our kids and all of that? Are there some changes that you've seen that we can speak on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one thing is consistent. If you're alive, you're going to change. And I think you have changed for the better over time. And I think you are a better person today than you were way back when. Um, and I would have to attribute that a lot to your husband. I think the trials and tribulations that you guys have faced and worked through to be together at this time and stage in your lives needs to be applauded. I applaud you guys for fighting through and making it through. because, being married and staying married is a choice, and both parties have to choose that. And if one doesn't want that, then it doesn't matter what you want unless both of you are on the same page. So, I've seen a lot of growth within you. I'm proud to call you my friend. I love both you and Andre very much. I call Andre my friend. Okay. You know, so all I can say to you for that is what you're bringing to the table is very important. And I just hope that everybody hears it and at least tries to implement that part in their lives.
No, I appreciate that, David. Thank you for saying that. And thank you for allowing me to put you on the spot like that. Um, I'll say this, I'm an only child, and there's a lot about being an only child that makes it difficult to slide into a partnership. And it was especially difficult for me. My mother was an only child. So imagine I'm the daughter of an only child, and I'm an only child. And so we learned it doubly well. So I have to credit my husband with having a lot of patience with putting up with me. I didn't always recognize it early that it was patience. Sometimes it felt like, I'm not even sure to describe how it felt like, but my husband is a great leader in our family. He's a great provider. He's a great father, best father I could have found for my kids. And I'm exceedingly happy with my choice. I hope he's happy with his choice. But I think we've created something beautiful and something lasting. And I appreciate it. So, but I don't want anyone to think I'm holding myself out as being perfectly married. We've had our times, but in the end, there's no one I would rather have, like absolutely no one I would have rather had in that place than the man I married. I had the opportunity to meet a young lady last week, maybe, or it was the week before, I can't remember. And she had an interesting list for her future potential partner. And this is an exercise I would like to offer. If you have this vast list of items you want in your partner, write them out and then figure out what the person who has that feature that you want would want in a partner. And then sum up all those things that this person that you want would want. And do you fit that? Because if you don't, you have a disconnect. And the thing that I don't think I would have been good marrying someone that was extremely wealthy or with family wealth, and I had nothing to bring to the table. I like feeling like I've contributed, and I don't particularly like feeling dependent. That might work with somebody else. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I'm saying with me, I feel very fulfilled by the fact that we built something together. And I feel that our union is pretty strong. And I liken it to, like, if you look at your hands and you consider your fingers your strength, and you try to bring your hands together like this is not a strong bond. Your strengths are fighting each other. But if your strengths are congruent and overlap, then this clasping of hands is a much stronger bond than just the hands being held together. And that's what I want in a union. That's what I advocate for in a union. Look for those synergies of strength in your relationship and use those to hold you together tightly and refrain from focusing on your partner's perceived weaknesses, because everybody has places maybe where they're not as strong. But the two of you should be way stronger than two of you separately. And that makes a beautiful union. Let me see what this says.
I love what you said right there, that
Yeah.
if you want something from somebody, the craze is young women saying they want a man who makes $100,000. Well, if you want a man that makes $100,000, what are you bringing to the table? And a man who's sitting there saying, okay, I want this beautiful model, but I'm overweight, I don't work out, I'm not healthy. What am I bringing to the table here? There's this disconnect between what we want and what we are, or what we're willing to do to have that. So
What we
what you
want,
say
what we
you
are.
want, you have to work toward, because you're not going to be blessed with something that is, to use my to that is incongruent with what you are doing, that is not online with whatever you're chasing in life, or however you're living your life. If it doesn't match, it's not going to come.
Yes, I believe that. I believe that completely. So, one of the things that happens, especially early in a relationship, not the honeymoon phase when your partner can't do wrong, but when the honeymoon sort of wears off and things start getting real and you start focusing on the stuff that irritates you. And I strongly believe that at that point in your union, the stuff that irritates you is the stuff you were attracted to. It's always that stuff that drew you in, and then now you're like, oh, I'm so tired of that. But it's probably what you need. What is irritating you at that point of your union is probably exactly what you need to have in a partner. You just need to work through becoming congruent in your marriage rather than combative in your marriage. And, and then what you said about looking at what someone wants, trying to look at what the person you want would want. I know that a lot of people talk about the money, like, a woman wants a man that makes six figures, but statistics are showing that a great many women are making quite a bit of their own money. And I see a lot on social media where there are women saying, they don't need men. Let me say this. I have a son who is a man. And the way I have tried to raise him is to be worthy of an amazing woman, because that's what I want for him to have and to deserve and to join with, so that they can raise a strong and beautiful family. I think that there are many great men out there, but everyone has to have their own definition of great. And if you're willing to form a partnership, I don't think you need to have a man that makes six figures or whatever your number is going to be. You need to have a partnership that has the capability and the potential to grow that six figure or even more. So you need to have the potential to grow wealth and to grow stability and to grow nurturing of each other. It is a partnership, not a transaction. It should be one of the few relatively transaction-less relationships. It should be more about mutual growth and sustenance. So
Very well said. Very well said. You and your husband have grown together and have grown the wealth that you have. You didn't walk into it up front. You grew that, and you grew it together. So you have a commonality there, a bond there that makes it more special and more important to maintain and be able to pass on as you both see fit. That's beautiful.
the other thing, when I was the stay-at-home mom and Andre was the sole breadwinner, it is very difficult to have someone slaving, working hard, trying to generate salary and income, and the spouse is there spending it faster than it can come in. So that's why you really need to talk about money. And I think that my husband and I do that fairly well. It's still painful, but we get around to the conversations. Both of us get impatient with each other and annoyed with each other. Of course, I never get annoyed, but it does happen, but you have to keep doing it. You have to stay in it. And so, yes, I think we have grown a lot together. I couldn't have raised the kids that we have the way that we did by myself. I couldn't have grown as a person by myself. I needed my counterpart, which I have. And I feel very blessed that I do. I think that everybody, if you are more intentional about your choices, more realistic about what you need versus the shiny objects that you might want can also make choices like that. That's what I believe. And I believe that if you make a wrong choice and you know it's a wrong choice, you know it's a dangerous choice, or then that's a conversation that that union needs to have, and then maybe they decide they don't continue that walk. But if you have children together, my belief is you still bring a lot of the Pitranomics marriage to the Pitranomics parenthood. It still has to be there because those kids you brought into the world together. So anyway, does anyone else have something they'd like to offer, suggest, or even challenge me on? Any of that there? Who all is in here still? Oh, we've lost some people. Hey, Evan. Guy, you usually say something. Where are you?
I'm here.
Hi. What are your
Hi.
thoughts about tonight?
Oh, I loved it. I loved your platform, and I listened to what you had to say, and it resonated quite a bit, because just like you and David was talking about, I got married when I was very, very young, and at that time, um, we definitely had our ups and downs, and if I had, of course, I had this type of knowledge, back then, going into our marriage, maybe who knows where we could be right now. But at that time, we went into it not knowing too much of anything about ourselves, about each other, about what we wanted in life, any of those things. We just kind of, figured it out along the way. But I know for certain that when you're in it together, you definitely gotta be able to communicate. You have to be 100% transparent with each other, and you have to be able to just be able to share each other's space, and don't have a lot of unrealistic expectations. Especially now with the young folk. I don't know. These unrealistic expectations when they're going into relationships, and wanting to have this and wanting to have that. I don't know. But yeah, you and David brought up some valid points on about being able to coexist in the same space, and you got to be able to just, I don't know, be able to live in that same space. But it can't be about me. It has to be about us.
It has to be about us.
Yes.
And you have to establish those boundaries around your relationship. And I do see an alarming trend where people seem to be trying to share their marriage or their relationship on social media. I'm going to say no, thank you on that one.
Yes, that's a bit too much, Sharon.
Bit too much, There is a reason why it's between two people and not two plus the rest of the world. So, and there really isn't any judgment in that. It's just not what I advocate and not what I try to share about. So I can't speak to that.
But like I said, I do like the platform that you spoke on tonight about who's in your lifeboat. I really do like this subject whenever you talk about it. I wish we grow this, especially with young folks that are coming together, that are starting out, that want to get together, thinking about marriage or considering marriage, or to have something like this even before they would consider getting married. And I do think this is a great platform for that.
Well, maybe we can partner with an actual therapist or just form an accountability group. I don't know. I think that one thing, it's hard for youth to listen.
Well,
It's so hard.
well, it's not just youth nowadays. It's like when you get older and you get set in your ways, we kind of get hard too.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I'm talking about when it's time to choose the partner.
Yeah.
Mm. And I'm glad that our two kids at least value our opinion when it comes to choosing a partner. I think that if there were some big red flags that we saw, that they would listen. That's what I'd like to think.
Well, the beauty of that is when you do uh, decide to have children, and later on in your marriage or whatever, and you do have children, you will find that maybe I used to think my children didn't listen, but I realized that they were listening and they do watch. But I did not know this until later in life that some of it did stick. And I was, and sometimes my boys will amaze me, and I say, wow, and I had to say to myself, they they really did listen to some things because I'm proud of them. I don't have to worry about them. Like when I was growing up, oh my God, it was something.
Well, you and me both. You're like, what's up with those kids? But
Yeah,
so anyway, I hope that what we talked about resonates with someone, works for someone. You could be useful in your life. And like always, I really, really appreciate those that come and share in the Pitranomics with me. Now, I'm going to give a totally unadulterated plea for help. I'd like to grow my audience. So whatever you think you could do to help bring some people, share the link, maybe share a video because this is on my Facebook page and it's on my YouTube channel. Maybe someone's interested in hearing. I'd really like to grow this, and I'll be trying to figure out ways to do that going forward. And also, if you have ideas, let me know.
yeah.
But
Okay.
anyway, thank you guys so much. This, I think, was a good topic, and I appreciate your listening and participating. I hope all of you have an amazing week. It is Easter weekend, so for those that celebrate, happy Easter. And I hope everybody is doing well. And I will see you next Thursday when we'll have another Thursday talk. So thank
I
you
want
for.
to
Mwah.
I want to give a shout out to David.
Oh, shout out to David. Shout out,
Yeah.
David.
Thank you.
What's up, Dave?
How you doing, man? Good
I'm
to
doing
see
all-
you.
You too.
We actually met a few weeks ago. We've been doing all of our talking on Zoom, and we met a few weeks ago, I guess
Absolutely.
early March, and that was awesome. And
Yes, it was.
much crazier in person than you come across on Zoom. I loved it.
Y'all take care. This was great.
You
All right,
too.
take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.